The village of Mafognak, which is right over here, had subsided enough to where water was coming into town. They actually moved the town over to Port Lions, so that town was actually abandoned. We've rebuilt.
How long did it take to rebuild this?
Took a long time, because what they did with downtown is actually take a lot of rock from the slide area before they recognized it as a slide area to build up downtown. Remember, it had subsided, so they built it back up with fill, and the fill came from the toe of what has become the landslide. So they actually came to town. I always say that urban renewal, that's what they call it. It's a federal program. Did more damage than the earthquake and tidal wave, because whatever cottonwood trees were left were just mowed down. Everything was just, just like taking an eraser and erasing the slate clean. They just started from scratch and recreated a town on this kind of flat area that we call downtown, the drainage systems and a number of things. So remember, I talked about earthquakes happening on solid rock and earthquakes happening on loose rock, which acts like jello. So that the town is
going to be jello if it happens again.
Yeah, it's going to be. We'll see more types of things happen downtown. But that was where property values were at. That's where the boat harbor was located. We were a much smaller town back then. So we didn't have, all the town was probably no further this way than just up the head of Volusia Homes. I mean, there was hardly anything else. There was a few things on Spruce Gate, but we're talking about a very tiny town back then. So what has happened is, now that it's been 30 years or so, not quite 30 years, since it's happened, that we have forgotten the lessons of the past. And if you forget the lessons of the past, forget history, they're bound to repeat themselves. So we'll see major damage again, even more so for the next earthquake. It's great to live, for someone with a geologic background like me, this is a great place to live in the middle of all these catastrophes, volcanoes exploding. There's a lot to be gained by understanding these things. Yes, they happen and there's catastrophe, but I guess in my mind, isn't it more important to sort of figure out why these things happen so you can in some form try to predict them or prevent. An example of what I'm trying to say is we have soils along the hillside here, and it's the same soil that gave away. It's these slide-prone soils. So by mapping, it's called a pyramid soil series, by mapping these soils, we know where they are, number one. We know, number two, that they're prone to sliding, and then hopefully we'll know that, number three, we should build underneath those. And the same thing with tidal waves. We had a big event in '64. Where the damage was done? Common sense. It should say that, maybe we shouldn't build in these areas because it happened once in '64. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if it's going to happen again. Shouldn't we learn from these things? Well, we generally don't. We generally don't, because human nature being what it is, people like to live close to the ocean.
Well, it sounds like you're well prepared.
Well, I like to think I am, but there's always something to do. I don't have my little Honda generator or something. Heat up my coffee or something. Because we lost power, we had to boil water. I think the water and sewer lines were questionable, but we've got more infrastructure now. We've got the sewage treatment plant in tidal wave zone. We've got all the utility lines in tidal wave zone. KEA is just now moving out of tidal wave zone up to Pillar Mountain. The city hall was located downtown. It's now up here. So we've come a long way. This isn't Kodiak of '64. I guess what I hate to see is the earthquake trigger the landslide, trigger smaller slides. We have a pretty good system in place now. Hopefully we can use it